And I'm sure there'll be plenty of reaction to that story later in the evening. However, I do need to continue and bring you the 15th annual BRICS Summit. It's kicking off in Sandton today. There's been a lot of events building up to it, but we are expecting any moment now, just after 4 o'clock, the program proper to get underway. However, not everyone is entirely happy with the summit. The Ukrainian Association of South Africa is calling on BRICS leaders to use their influence to stop the war in Ukraine. The association, along with Amnesty International and the Helen Suzman Foundation, has been picketing in Sandton as the summit gets underway. Senior reporter Aviwe Mtila keeping an eye on that protest for us. Hello to you, Aviwe, as well. And despite the fact that they want to be as vocal as possible, these picketers, these protesters, be vocal, be visual, be visible, of course, and get their points across, I imagine there's so much security there, it must have been quite peaceful, or am I wrong?
Very peaceful indeed, Gareth. In fact, by 12 o'clock, that very protest that you speak of was actually done with a heavy police contingency, both from the Johannesburg Metro Police and the South African Police Service. But before we go there, I just want us to touch base on the summit itself. I am, of course, on Africa's Golden Square Mile. That is Sandton, surely the most guarded area of South Africa now, with a heavy police contingency, as a lot of these heads of state that we're expecting to be in Sandton already descending here. There's a hive of activity, a lot of movement around Sandton, and we're actually making new friends. I have met friends from South Korea that I actually want to catch up with now on the South African experience, and my colleague going to take us there. Hello guys.
Hello.
Thank you for joining us at eNCA. But let's speak on your South African experience. How are you finding South Africa at the moment?
As we stay in here, we saw a lot of differences with poor and rich people. So many differences, and we already experienced many load shedding. So during this BRICS event, I want the 5 countries finding way to improve the differences with like poor and rich people, something like that. I hope they found the ways to improvement.
To bridge the inequality gap, the highest in the world, Gareth, the difference between the rich and the poor, even the difference between Sandton and just Alexandra, a stone throw away. And that load shedding issue also coming up here. How are you finding South Africa, and what do you want to come out of this BRICS summit?
Actually, we are from World Mission Society Church of God volunteer group, ASEZ. So actually, we came to South Africa. We are play a cleanup campaign and ICT school education for students. So actually, our final goal is we will meet President Cyril Ramaphosa. So we introduce our team to Cyril Ramaphosa of South Africa.
So you hope to meet the president and introduce your team to South Africa as you're up on this cleaning campaign. What are your hopes? Maybe let me finish up just quickly with you. What are you hoping will come out of this BRICS? Do you want South Korea to have been part of the BRICS delegation?
Maybe it's good. I think it's good to participate the South Korea also in this BRICS event. But before that, I want to know how these countries had gathered.
Yeah. So you're looking to learn how these 5 countries, the BRICS bloc, has gathered. Those are the countries, of course, Gareth, the Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, the current BRICS bloc, that, of course, now will have those discussions around expansion. As we do know, at least 23 more countries officially knocked on the door asking to join the BRICS bloc itself. But going on to that earlier issue, of course, there was that earlier protest, not only from the Amnesty International South Africa, joined by Helen Suzman Foundation as well, as the Ukrainian Association of South Africa, but there were other protests in that very park that's about some some 4 kilometers away from where we are this very moment. For example, the Ethiopian delegation came out, at least 2 dozens of them, placards in hand, suggesting that they need to address the Prime Minister of Ethiopia because of the many atrocities that they face. They weren't the only one. Even some Pakistani delegations were there, quite infuriated about the treatment that they say that they face as Muslims and Christians in Pakistan. But also, of course, you mentioned that earlier issue, that bone of contention, of course, 18-month long conflict between Ukraine and Russia. And that was what was at the fore there from the Helen Suzman Foundation, joined by the Amnesty International South Africa, as well as the Ukrainian Association that's combined with South Africa, suggesting that this very bloc of leaders and the 50-plus heads of state must address the conflict, and they must come to the end of that conflict, suggesting that even little children are disappearing in Ukraine. In fact, I don't want you to hear it for myself, Gareth. Take a listen to the conversation we had a bit earlier on when we were at the Innisfree Park.
We are calling for leaders of all BRICS countries and the guests to pressurize or use influence and demand from Russian authorities, demand from Putin to immediately stop Russian aggression and stop any military operation which happening in Ukraine right now. Withdraw all forces to return back to grain deal, to stop bombing our elevators and our grain storages, because it's simply being destroyed now. We cannot give it to anywhere. We cannot give it to rest of the world, and it simply gets bombed and burned. We also call to immediately remove all children which were illegally displaced from Ukraine.
All right, Aviwe, so just as I let you go now, after speaking to those picketers and those protests, has there been any formal reaction from the delegates, from government, from the organizers?
Not at all, Gareth. In fact, those protests were supposed to be right where we are, in front of the Sandton Convention Center, but we understand at the 11th hour they were told that, nope, they can't have those protests here, and they are to be moved to the Innisfree Park, which is at least some 4 or so kilometers away from here. They were heavily guarded by police there, and by 12 o'clock, those protests themselves were done. We're expecting them possibly to continue tomorrow, as we do understand that very Innisfree Park, as you make your way inside Sandton, will be the area that's been designated for such protests. We're not sure if they will get a response from government or any of the 50-plus heads of state that are going to be in the country over the next 3 days.
All right, then, Aviwe, we'll leave it there for the moment. If you just joined us, good to have you on today on eNCA. I'm Gareth Edwards. We are awaiting the formal program of BRICS to get underway as well. The program that I have in front of me that we have from the organizers as well is it was meant to get underway at 4 o'clock. So we're about 12 minutes 14 minutes, depending on which clock you're looking at, about 14 minutes behind schedule. It's the BRICS Business Forum Leaders Dialogue. So what you're going to hear when it does get underway, it will be a bit late, of course, by now, is the Minister of Trade, Industry and Competition, Aviwe Mtila, Sim Shabalala, the CEO of Standard Bank. I also hear from our own President, Cyril Ramaphosa, Luis Inácio Lula da Silva, President, of course, of Brazil. After that will be a statement by His Honorable Vladimir Putin. However, of course, the Russian President is not here, so it will be a pre-recorded message from Vladimir Putin. He's not attending in person, as we know. Then Narendra Modi, the Republic of India, the Prime Minister, of course, and then the President of the People's Republic of China, Xi Jinping, will round it off. So it is running. I'm about 14, 15 minutes behind schedule. My team are watching it very closely, of course, when it begins. We will take you right there. If you've just walked